Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we're going to continue on chapter number 1, Introduction to Research. This is a continuation from the previous research chapter. In this chapter, we will discuss on the type of research and research design. Right. So let's begin. There are two types of research design which are applied research and basic or fundamental research. Applied research is the intention of applying the result of its finding to solve the specific problem currently being experienced in the organization. So this is a basic applied research. We have a problem, we try to solve the problem, we try to find the solution and try to apply the solution to solve the problem. For the basic research or fundamental research, is being done chiefly to improve understanding of a certain problem that commonly occur in organization setting and how to solve them, and it will provide a knowledge on how to solve the problem. So the intention of a basic research is to find the solution of the problem, and we are not trying to apply to solve the problem. We just provide a knowledge on how to solve the problem. Right. So another definition, another point of view, applied research is used to answer a specific question that has been directly application into the world. And for basic research or fundamental research is driven purely by curiosity and a desire to expand our knowledge. Now let's look at in detail about basic research. By default, basic research focus on the search of truth or the development of the theory. Right? Because of this property, basic research is also called as a fundamental. Researchers with their fundamental background knowledge design the studies that can be tested, refined, modified, or develop a theories. That's all. Generally, these researchers are affiliated with academic institution, and they are perform this research as a part of their graduate or doctoral works. Gathering the knowledge for the knowledge sake is the sole purpose of basic research lah. So basic research is also called as a pure research. Basic research is driven by a scientist's curiosity or interest in a specific scientific question. The main motivation in a basic research is to expand man's knowledge, not to create or invent something. There is no obvious commercial value to discoveries that the result from the basic research. The term basics basically indicate that through theory generation, basic research provide the foundation for applied research. It provides the foundation for applied research. This approach of research is essential for nourishing the expansion of knowledge. It deals with questions that intellectually interesting and challenging to investigator. It focuses on refuting or supporting theories that operate in a changing society. Basic research generates new ideas, principles, and theories which may not be immediate practical utility. Through the research lay the foundation of modern progress and development of many fields. Basic research rarely help practitioners direct with their everyday concern but they can stimulate new way of thinking about our daily life. So basic researcher are more detached and academic in their approach and tend to have their motivates. For example, anthropologists may research to try and understand the physical properties, symbolic meaning, and practical qualities things. Such research contribution to an understanding of a broad issue of interest to many social science issue of itself, self, family, and material culture. So having so, we come up with with some definition of basic research lah. So the definition, basically the definition of basic research, when the solution to the research problem has no apparent application to any existing practical problem, but serve only the scholar interest of community of researcher, that is a basic research. So most scientists believe that the fundamental understanding of all branch of science is needed for progress to take place. In other words, basic research may lay down the foundation of applied research that follows. If basic works is done first, then applied spin-off of eventually result from this research. A person wishing to do a basic research in many specializing area generalized must have studied the concept and assumption of a specialization enough to know what has been done in the past and what remain to be done. Right? For example, in the health sector, for example, right, basic research is necessarily to generate a new knowledge and technology to deal with major unsolved health problem. So, a few examples of the question that can be asked in the pure research or basic research or fundamental research is how the universe begin, what protons, neurons or electrons compose of, how do slim mold produce, how do the new Malthusian view the Malthusian theory, what is the specific genetic code of the fruit fly, what is the relevance of dividend theories in the capital market. That is the sum of the question asked in basic research. As there is no guarantee of a short-term practical gain, researcher may find it difficult to obtain funding or for basic research. Right? So basically, to recap, the basic research is actually, the aim of basic research is actually not to apply the finding to solve the immediate problem at hand, but it rather to understand more certain phenomena and problem that occur in a several organization and how they can be solved. This is the main purpose, to generate more knowledge and understand the phenomena that occur to build theories based on the research result. So basically, this is the basic research lah. So this is one of the example. As I mentioned before, there are several examples that have been tell of the basic research. To recap the example of basic research, this is a university lecturer may be interested in investigating the factor that contribute to absenteeism in the workplace. After gathering more information through observation and personal interview, the lecturer may identify factors such as inflexible working hours, inadequate training of employees, and how moral and low moral as a primary influence of absenteeism. So this is one of the example of basic research. So now let's look at another type of research, which is applied research. As we know, applied research is a study of problem concern to organization in order to find solution that can be implemented to rectify the situation. Basically, applied research is a type of research design that seek to solve specific problem or provide innovative solution to issues affecting an individual, group, or society. It is often referred to as scientific method of inquiry or contractual research because it is involved the practical application of scientific method to everyday problem. When conducting applied research, the researcher take extra care to identify a problem, develop a research hypothesis, and goes ahead to test this hypothesis via an experiment. In many cases, this research approach employ empirical method in order to solve practical problem. And applied research is sometimes considered as a non-systematic inquiry because its direct approach in seeking a solution to a problem. It is typically a follow-up research design that further investigates the finding of pure or basic research or fundamental research. It's a follow-up research from a basic research or fundamental research in order to validate this finding and apply them to create innovative solution. Basically, for applied research, there are three types of applied research. These are evaluation research, research and development, and action research. There are three types. First is evaluation research, second is research and development, and third is action research. So let's discuss about evaluation research in brief. So evaluation research is a type of applied research that analyzes existing information about the research subject to arrive at an objective research outcome or reach the informed decision. This type of applied research is mostly applied in business context. For example, an organization may adopt evaluation research to determine how to cut down their overhead costs. So this is evaluation research. Another type of applied research is research and development. Research and development is a type of applied research that is focused on developing a new product and service based on the needs of the market, of the target market. It focuses on gathering information about marketing needs and finding ways to improve on an existing product or create new product that satisfy the identified needs. So that is a type of applied research, which is the research and development. The last type of research for applied research is action research. Action research is a type of applied research that is set up on providing practical solution to specify business problem by pointing the business in the right direction. Typically, action research is a process of reflecting inquiry that is limited to specified context and situational in nature. Right? So the example of applied research, business researcher may conduct a research to learn how to improve their management system to ensure a more effective and productive workplace. Another example is advertiser may conduct a research to find out about the impact of their promotional campaign. And the last one, as I can give to you, political parties may conduct a research to find out the public opinion about their policies and the likelihood of the voters will support them in future election. As I can add the example of applied research in business, right? Applied research is used in business to build knowledge and develop a product solution. It enables organization to identify the particular needs of target market. This would help them to create different business strategies that would allow them to satisfy these needs. In addition, conducting a contractual research would help business owner to get insightful feedback on product gaps that may have otherwise been ignored. This is a great way to get the first-hand information on target market, a reaction which can inform brand decision. Applied research will also help employer on labor to identify and address the productivity needs of their workforce. For instance, an organization may carry out applied research in order to measure effectiveness of its recruitment practice or of its organizational structure. For examples, applied research to improve an organizational hiring process, to improve workplace efficiency and organizational policies, and maybe to bridge the skill gaps in the workplace. Maybe I can bring up another example in applied research in education. In education, applied research is used to test pedagogy process in order to discover the best teaching and learning methods. It also used to test educational policies before implementing and to address the different issues associated with the teaching paradigm and classroom dynamic for the better learning process. Right. Educational applied research attempts to solve a problem by gathering the primary source of by using combination of qualitative and quantitative data collection methods. These data serve as empirical evidence, which is subjected to rigorous analysis and description in order to arrive at a conclusion. So the goal for this research methodology is to determine the applicability of educational theory and principle by way of subjecting hypotheses to experimentation within specific setting. So applied research in education is also more alteration as it gather practical evidence that can be informed paradigmatic solution to the problem. So the characteristic of applied research in education, it clearly highlight generalization and hypotheses that inform the research finding, relies on empirical evidence. It is set at providing solution to defined problem. It is also required accurate observation and description. For example, a study into a way to improve teacher-learner classroom engagement. A study into a way to improve the school readiness for its student. A study to build student interest in mathematics. So that is one of the example of applied research. Let's look at another dimension, the applied research in science, right? So applied research in science is a scientific method of investigating because it applies existing scientific knowledge to practical solution. It is useful in different fields including thermodynamics, physics, material science, and maybe in microbiology. So the example of applied research may be to improve agriculture crop production, or to treat or cure a specific disease. Right, that is an example of applied research in science. Right. So maybe we can look at into example in health. So in health, maybe an investigator or try to identify the healing properties of a specific herb. Maybe investigation to identify the side effect of using a particular drugs. So that is an example of applied research in health, right? So I think that would be enough, right? So this is the can you please identify the type of research of this statement? You are going to study the relationship between job satisfaction and career development of secondary school teachers. So maybe to study the relationship between job satisfaction and career development is a basic research. So the solution provided from the basic research applied to the improvement of job satisfaction is called as applied research. So basically applied research and basic research are interrelated. So basic research feed applied research, and applied research also feed basic research. So remember, basic research or fundamental research or pure research are the same definition. Sometimes in other book will say basic research, one book will say fundamental research, another book will say pure research. It mean the same things, right? So let's look at the next context discussion on this topic, which is research design. Alright, for the research design is a plan, structure and strategies of investigation, so conceived as to obtain answer to research question or problems, right? The plan is complete scheme or program of the research. It include the outline of what the investigator will do from writing the hypothesis and their operational implication to the final analysis of data. This is based on Kerlinger 1986. So basically, research design is a plan for selecting the source and the type of information. It's a plan for selecting the source and a type of information used to answer the research question. It's also a framework for specifying the relationship between among the study variables, right? It's a blueprint that outlined each procedure from the hypothesis of the analysis. So basically, it's a plan lah. So we want to plan how to do a research. So that it should be a research planning or research design, right? So there are types of research design, whether exploratory research and conclusive research. For exploratory research, there are 4 types of research design, which is involving secondary data, experience survey, case analysis or case study, and focus group. For conclusive research, they are divided into 2 parts, with the descriptive research and causal research. For descriptive research, there are still we can get from a secondary data study, survey, or observation. But for causal research, it's done by doing experiment, whether in field or in lab, right? So basically, we need to understand there are 2 types of research design, where the first is exploratory research and the other one is conclusive research. For conclusive research, they are divided into 2 parts, whether descriptive research or causal research. In exploratory research, the data can be the research can be done by using secondary data, experience survey, case analysis, or focus group. For descriptive research, also can be done by using secondary data, survey, or observation. We will see what the difference between exploratory research and descriptive research. For causal research, is basically a confirmatory research. It's being doing in either in lab or field. It's an experimental research. So this is a summary of research design. Right? We have non-experimental, which are exploratory research and descriptive research. For experimental research, we have true experiment or true experimental research and quasi-experimental research. The difference between true and quasi-experimental research is the randomization. So the true experimental research is having a complete randomization. Quasi-experimental research does not require a full randomization of the subject. So now look at the purpose of descriptive research. The purpose of descriptive research is to describe the characteristic of the existing phenomenon. And the time frame is current. So degree of control over the factor precision, maybe there are no control of the degree of factor precision, right? So how to code of work to look for in this research article: describe, interview, or literature review. And then the example for descriptive research: a survey of dating practice of adolescent girls. So this is one of the summary of descriptive research. For historical research, maybe sometimes there are several study design in the historical research. We call it as a retrospective research, or prospective research is for cohort or longitudinal research, right? Purpose of historical research is to relate the event that have been occurred in the past to current event. Right? The time frame means it will dig the past situation. We don't have a degree of control of a factor. And the code of word to look for research articles in the net is past described. Example: an analysis of fraud used in hypnosis as it relates to current psychotherapy practice. Correlational research. The purpose of correlational research is to examine the relationship between the variable. Time frame may be current or past or future. We have a low to medium degree of control over the factor or precision. And if you want to look into to find the literature or article, relationship related to associate with predicts. So this is the keyword: relationship related associate with predicts. And the example of correlational research is an investigation that focus on the relationship between the number of hours of television watching and the grade point average. Another type of non-experimental research is qualitative research. The purpose of qualitative research is to examine human behavior and the social, cultural, and political context within which it occurs. So the time frame may be current or past. So the degree of control of the factor may be moderate to high, right? The code to look into the keyword to look into to search for the research article, either using case study, evaluation, ethnography, historical research, or survey. Example of qualitative research is a case study analysis of the effectiveness of policy for education or children. For experimental research, this is require a randomization of the subject. So the purpose is to test for true cause and effect relationship. This is basically a confirmatory research lah. So time frame should be current, and we have a high degree of control for the variable or factor. The keyword that we're going to search to find the research article may be function of cause, comparison between effect of and so ever. The example is the effect of the preschool language program on the language scale of inner city children. So this is one of the example of true experimental research. For quasi-experimental research of half experimental, the purpose is to test the causal relationship without having full control, right? The time frame can be either current or past, right? We have moderate to high degree of control over factor or precision. So the example of quasi-experimental is gender different in spatial and verbal abilities. If you want to search for the article, the keyword that you can use a function of cause, comparison between, effect of. So this is one of the keyword that you can use to search the particular research articles. Right. So let's look at one by one. Exploratory research. So it's undertaken when not much is known about the situation at hand. So this is the exploratory. We don't really know what is happening. We try to explore. No information is available on how similar problem, research issues have been solved in past. We don't have any information whether the problem have been solved previously or not. So we try to explore what is a possible factor that might affect the problem. So in the undertaken to better comprehend the nature of the problem, since very few study might have been conducted in the area. So since when we have very new problem, right, or rare problem, so exploratory research is a suitable research to do to study on that problem, right? So exploratory research, some qualitative study where data are collected through observation or interviews. This is exploratory in nature lah. So the data are collected through observation or interviews. When the data reveals some pattern regarding the phenomena of interest, the theory are developed. We develop the theory and hypothesis formulation for the to test the subsequent testing, right? So exploratory study are also necessary when some facts are known but more information is needed for developing a viable theoretical framework. So basically, maybe some research have been done previously to solve the problem, but we need more information about to solve the problem. So we need to do some exploratory research. Remember, in exploratory research, we can get the data from secondary data, experience survey, case study, or focus group, right? So if you are doing exploratory study, you can get the data from a secondary data analysis or literature search, right? By looking into a literature review, right? What have the past research have been done, and this is the process of reviewing existing information that is related to research problem. Maybe we can do a systematic study or meta-analysis study, right? So this is kind of a exploratory research, data source, right? We can collect the data by experience survey. This is a process of gathering information from individual who believe to be have knowledgeable about the research problem. We can also collect the data based on case analysis or case study. Is used to the case study or case analysis refers to the use of information in about a situation that resemble the current situation surrounding the current research problem. So maybe you can go to the one to get let's say for example in medical. So not there might be, if you have you are facing a new disease, right? There might be no solution. So most of the best research to do is exploratory research. So the data is came from the case study, right? For different person, right? So another data collection that can be done in research exploratory research is a focus group. Normally, focus group consists of 8 to 12 people representing the population under study, and we gather together, and we have informal setting to discuss issues surrounding the research problem. Valuable for testing product design. This is a valuable information, a source of information to develop a new product design and service concept. Maybe you can do a testing advertisement campaign, gaining insight into markets, basic needs and attitudes. Right, so that is this is a 4 source of information that we can get when you do exploratory research. Basically, exploratory research is qualitative research. Most of them are qualitative research in nature, right? So now move to the next type of research design, which is a conclusive research design. In conclusive research design, we have a descriptive research and causal research. Let's look at descriptive research. Right. Descriptive research is also called a statistical research. The main goal is to describe the data and characteristic what is being studied. The area behind this type of research is to study the frequency, average, and other statistical calculation. We can find the relationship between variable A and variable B. We can find the correlation. We can find the prediction of the variable, right? So this research does not gather the cause behind the situation. We just find, basically this is still under exploratory research and is more into causal research. When the first step before causal research be done, it should done the descriptive research. So it can be divided into two. Descriptive research can be divided into two. First is cross-sectional research. Another one is longitudinal research. Right? Cross-sectional research and historical research. Right? So basically, the cross-sectional research are data are gathered once, perhaps over a period of day or week or month, in order to answer a research question. So under cross-sectional research, there are many research design, study design under cross-sectional. Maybe it can be retrospective cross-sectional, uh, uh, prospective cross-sectional, and the combination of retrospective, prospective, cross-sectional, right? So for longitudinal study or cohort study, data are gathered across period of time. Means that we are trying to follow up our observation. We're going to know what will happen if they are starting to develop. Let's say, for example, we want to know the average of die when you have a cancer. So if you have cancer, you want to know when you're going to die. So this is a part of a study in cohort study. So we recruit the people, your observation into your study design, study frame, sampling frame, and we're going to follow up until the event is occurred, right? So basically, in descriptive research, there are two types of research design: cross-sectional research design and cohort research design, right? Or what we call, another word in cohort is prospective research design, right? So the next type of research design, after we do a descriptive study, descriptive design, is causal design. Causal research is also known as explanatory design. Exploratory design is basically a confirmatory research lah. So the aim of this research is to understand why the thing is occurred. Let's say we want we do in a descriptive research design, we know that A is having a relationship with B. So to know why A is having a relationship with B, so that is causal research. So it is built on exploratory and descriptive research, right? So for causal research, it cannot be done unless you have gone through exploratory research and descriptive research. It examines the cause and effect of the relationship, right? So correlational research, this is another type of research. Under descriptive study, right? So it asks what several events have been in common, asks whether knowing one event can allow prediction of another event, and you need to remember, correlation is not a causation, right? Does not imply causation until you do causal research, right? So to understand the causal research, to understand the causation, you need to conduct a causal research to understand why A having a correlation with B, right? So as far we have discussed type of research design, from exploratory research design and causal research design. Under causal research design, under a conclusive research design. So conclusive research design, we have two types of conclusive research design: descriptive research design and causal research design. Causal research design is more on confirmatory effect. So by doing exploratory research design, there are called as a qualitative research. There are two types of research, whether qualitative research and quantitative research. Qualitative research is examine behavior in nature, social, cultural, and political context. It usually result in non-quantitative data lah. So the data, source of the data may be come from a secondary data, a case study, focus group, and we have discussed this one, experience survey, right? It may be come from a secondary data. Secondary data means from a literature review, experience survey, case study, and focus group. So this is basically a non-quantitative data, right? For experimental research, as we know, there are as we have discussed, from conclusive research, we have descriptive research and causal research. In causal research is a confirmatory study. Normally, in confirmatory study, involve experimental research. Right, we need to understand the effect and understand why it happened, cause and effect. Right, so it tries in experimental research tries to discover causal relationship. Right, we have two type of experimental design, whether through experimental research and another one is quasi experimental research. The difference between true experimental research and quasi experimental research is the randomization. True experimental research require complete randomization. Quasi experimental research does not require full randomization. Right. Let's look at true experimental research. Participants are assigned into group by random. Right. So treatment available is controlled by researcher. So researcher are controlled to the treatment. Right. So how is they control? By randomization process. The control of potential cause of behavior. Right. Quasi-experimental research. Participants are pre-assigned to group. Right. So they are not fully randomized. They are pre-assigned. They are already assigned to group. Useful when the researcher cannot manipulate the variables. Right. For example, let's say you already have pre-assigned group. Let's say group A and group B. Group A having a disease, group B does not having a disease, right? So that is a pre-assigned group lah. So what method and to use when? So this is the flowchart, good flowchart to look into when to use the method and what method to use, right? So first one, the first question that you need to look at, are you looking for difference between group? If the answer is yes, so you need to go for experimental research. If your answer is no, you are doing non-experimental research. So if you are not looking for a difference between two groups, normally the difference between two groups are made when the descriptive descriptive research has been done or exploratory research has been done, right? Then baru kita look into experimental research. So if your answer is no, are you studying event that occur in the past? If your answer is yes, then you are doing historical research. If your answer is no, then you need to answer the next question. Are you studying the event that primarily occur in the present? So the answer is yes. Your design is descriptive research. If your answer is no, are you studying the relationship between variables, not the effect of the one of the others? If the answer is yes, you are doing correlational research. If you are not doing this, time to go back to reconsider the question that you're asking, right? So if you're not trying to answer these three questions, then you need to refine back your research question. So if you are trying to find the difference between groups, right? So you need to ask one question. If your research, your observation or participant are randomized or not randomized into group, if not randomized into group, then you are doing quasi-experimental. If your participant are fully randomized into group, then you are doing true experimental research, right? So now let's look back, recap what we have learned so far. We have learned basic research that focus on academic issues with no direct concern for the applicability of the result, right? So this is also known as blue sky research, right? Applied research is that is intend to produce result that may have practical significance, right? So this is also called as industrial driven and problem lead. So this is a type of research available, right? Library, historical, academic, case study, and so on. So to understand type of research available, you need to do more reading, read the book. So my recommended books is Umar Sekaran, Research Method for Business. Another one is Neil Salkin, Research Methodology, and Rajit Kumar, Research Methodology, right? So now, to understand more on qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, inductive in nature, exploratory in nature, has proposition instead of hypothesis. Proposition are adjusted as data are collected, so it's not fixed. Very flexible in terms of methodology. You can use in focus group, right? You can use experience survey, you can use case study or literature search. Suitable for theory building. We don't have any information of the prior problem. We try to find the solution of the prior problem, and this is a theory building. Better for field where there is no strong body or acceptance theory. So the example of a qualitative research: participant observation, ethnography, photography, films, case study, content analysis, and so on. For quantitative research, deductive in nature, involve collecting data to test hypotheses which outline what the expected answer will be. The data collected to test hypotheses, right? This is the main thing that we do in quantitative research. We're trying to test the hypothesis suitable for theory building, theory testing, right? We are not trying to build a theory, we try to test a theory, right? Better for field where there's strong body of acceptance theory. So we already know there is a theory for the problem. We try to test the theory in the related problem. So for example, such for quantitative research is a survey research, experimental, and etc. So research design, let's recap a bit, right? Exploratory, to gain background information, right? To define terms, to clarify problem and hypothesis, and to establish research priorities. So there are several type of exploratory research, right? You can type means here we can get the data from a case study, focus group, naturalistic, and various observation techniques. Example of exploratory study: to understand the problem faced by user of LRT service based on the discussion session with a small group of frequent user, right? So this is one of the example. So research design, the purpose of research design for descriptive, right? To describe and measure a phenomenon. Data collection can be done through a survey, observation, or experiment. The example of research design, descriptive research design, to measure level of information literacy among college students through a sample survey study using a structured questionnaire, right? So for causal research design is a study to study relationship between variables, to test a specific relationship between two or more variables, right? Maybe I change this one to nice color, right? So data collection method can be done either in survey, observation, or experimental. This is research. This type of research design, causal research design, came from descriptive research design, right? To determine the nature and strength of relationship between level of advertisement and brand loyalty, to identify determinants of academic success, right? So content of research report, this is what we need to do when you trying to develop a research report, right? So there are 5 typical chapter, right? First chapter is introduction and objective. Second chapter, survey related to literature, means survey related to literature is a literature review. You need to review some literatures, and you need to find to specify what is the methodology to achieve the objective. This is basically a research process, and discussion of the result, and last is conclusion and recommendation. So planning of doing research, first thing you need to do is to understand the problem or issues. Then you develop a conceptual framework. So to develop a conceptual framework, you need to do a lot of reading on the previous research. Identify the research question and hypothesis, clarify the study question, and last is define the study scope. Avoid using limitation. Right. So this is additional notes, right, on the study research design. You can read this note on this website, right. I already give a link for you. Please download and read this one, Principle of Research Design in Public Health, right. So to recap again, type of research approach, right, we have observational research approach, right, which is in natural setting. So we can do customer behavior, right. For example, customer behavior, what do female customer buy first in the supermarket? Animal habitats, do birds remember where they stash their seeds? Do natural phenomenon, ozone layer depletion. Driver behavior, do the majority of drivers stop at the red lights? So this is the observational. We're going to observe the behavior of the participants. Another one is a sample survey. This is another research approach to gather the data, right. This is the type of data gathering, right. Sample by using observational, sample survey, and experimental. In a sample survey, subjects are asked about their opinion, attitude, belief, perception, and practice on issue of their interest, right. For experimental approach, control environment. For example, the effect of noise on construction of children, sleep pattern of drug addicts, light responsivity in chick embryos, right. So this is a research jargon, right. The thing that you need to familiarize in research, first is variable and measurement scales, population and samples, parameter and statistics, research question, research objective and hypothesis, research type, and research design. This is the jargon that you need to understand and familiarize when you are involving with research methodology, right. So this is the summary that we have discussed so far. So we already defined the basic term related to research and scientific method. So this is from our first lecture. We already list 8 of characteristic of high quality research, right. We already summarized 8 steps in scientific method, and we already described the difference between experimental and non-experimental research. 3 types of non-experimental research design, 2 types of research design, distinguish between this basic research and applied research. We already discussed this one. So basically this is I'm going to leave this as your assignment. So please read again and rewatch my lecture, read more source of information dalam buku research method, either Umar Sekaran, Ranjit Kumar, or Nell Salkin, right. Try to answer this question, right. I think so far we already finished chapter number 1 for the introduction of the research, right. So we have gone through a brief introduction of the research, and we have been introduced some jargons of research what we call basic term, right. So I think that's all. Thank you very much If you have a question, please leave a comment on the question. Ask me in WhatsApp, or you can message me personally or in group. Right. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.